In this video, I'm actually going to be interviewing the developer who built what I believe is the #1 best Forex robot on the market for passing prop firm challenges. And how can I make that such a big claim? Well, I've seen that this has been able to help literally hundreds of people pass prop firm challenges. And in this video, he's going to explain the exact process and story that he used to build a prop firm robot to actually consistently pass prop firm challenges and help people get funded. And just to give you an idea, people like Michael Sislow that have used this expert advisor passed over 8 different challenges and got funded $1 million worth of capital. We also have a retired eye doctor named Dr. Carlton, who is actually able to use this expert advisor and get funded $2.5 million worth of capital so far. So in this video, I'm actually going to interview the guy that built this robot, and he's going to explain the entire process, the whole story of how he went through. I think you'll find this very, very interesting. All right, Joe, thanks so much for being here with us. Why don't you go ahead and just take a second and explain to us kind of the story as well as the process of like what you went through in order to create this amazing EA.
Yeah, for sure. So, it goes all the way back to when prop firms first started coming out. That was something that was really exciting at the time, something we'd never heard of before. And so, for those who aren't familiar, I'm sure everyone here is pretty much familiar, but basically with these prop firms, you get funded up to like $400,000 and use other people's money to trade with, and they cover the losses. You lose money and it's not your loss, it's their loss. And the only catch was you had to pay this fee and you had to take this challenge. And so, we were really looking into this. It seemed amazing, but we quickly realized that, this challenge is harder than it looks, and it's something that it's pretty tough to pass. You have to achieve 10% profit with no more than 10% drawdown, and you can't lose more than 5% in a day, and you have to do all that in 20 trading days. And it's like, that's really tough to do. And especially, anybody can do that. You can get lucky, but like to do that consistently, that was really the challenge there. And so we thought, well, what if we could build a bot that could do this consistently? That would be the ultimate dream, right? Because, we had, different manual traders in our community that were having success with this. And, it's hard to duplicate their success because they're using their own manual strategy analysis, all this. But with a bot, we could easily duplicate that across lots of people and help lots of people get funded and, leverage this prop firm money to make profits for themselves. So we started down this road of let's do that. Let's make that our mission, to build this automated trading robot where you could literally pass challenges in your sleep. Okay, that would be like the goal. And so we bought several EAs of people that said they could pass, and most of them, it was really hit or miss. Nothing consistent for sure. It felt more like we were just getting lucky, if we happened to pass. And with these other EAs, it was probably like, I don't know, 1 out of 10 times or something, like not very good, not something that we'd really be interested in anyways. We found one that actually seemed to pass a little more consistently. And so that was the one that we actually, started to focus on. We went ahead and we bought the source code, but it was really weird. Quite unfortunately, actually, the developer died in a car crash while we were figuring this out. And so we couldn't communicate with the developer anymore. We were in contact with his partner, and he just like, hey, look, I'll just sell you the source code and you do what you want with it. And so you're like, okay, we did that. We bought the source code. And like I said, the results were more consistent, but they weren't consistent enough. The results were just kind of random, to be honest. And but needless to say, it still worked occasionally. And we got, messages sporadically within our group of people that were passing. And so again, this was our mission, right? It was to build this automated trading robot. And so that's what we did. We were focused on that. We bought all competitor bots. I actually performed a mastermind with a couple of our most successful members in our community who were having success with this bot. And we basically just put our heads together and tried to come up with how we could create this bot that would consistently perform. We came up with ideas for features that we could develop, based on what we were seeing working, just ideas that we had, just complete, theories, hypotheses. What if we did this, that could make it better, or what if we did that? And, we really just put our heads together. And then we did a lot of optimization and MT5 and, using the optimizer and finding what settings worked best. And, like I said, it's a really tough thing passing these prop firm challenges. It's not easy to do consistently. And so honestly, it got to the point where I know I felt like giving up multiple times. But we had this mission. I don't know if you've seen that visual where you've got this, this huge pile of diamonds over here, that people are mining for. And then you've got people digging tunnels. And then right before they get to the diamonds, they turn around and go home. That's kind of what it felt like. It's like, oh, we're so close, but we can't quite get there. So yeah, anyways, we just kept going. Long story short, we just kept going. We did a lot of testing, a lot of optimizing. That mastermind, by the way, was called the Golden Goose Mastermind. Just kind of a fun fact. And that's because we found that the best settings worked on gold. And someone in the mastermind, I think it was Casey actually, who just said, oh, this is like the Golden Goose. Obviously, if we can get it to work. And we did. That was this exciting thing, is that eventually we finally felt like we struck gold or struck these diamonds. We found these settings that were working really well. We were getting like a 75% pass rate in our back testing. And it was like, wow, that's pretty good. If you could pass 3 out of 4 challenges, I think we really have something there. Obviously everybody wants to pass every single time, but we realize that's really not practical. If you look at these prop firms, what are the odds, Adam? I know the odds.
The odds are only 6% of people actually end up passing both phases and getting funded. Yeah.
Yeah, so only 6%. And then we were getting a 75%. That's more than 10 times more likely, better results than what people were getting on their own, on average, right? That would take a challenge.
And I remember, Joe, I'll just interject here. I remember when you first came out, you told me, you're like, hey, I found these settings. We call them the Golden Goose settings. And the numbers look really, really good on the back test. And then I remember you went and you took a live challenge on FTMO the next week, and you passed and got funded $100,000 from FTMO. And I remember I was pumped. I was like, dang, this is cool. And then you showed it. Casey tried it, and I think he did it on True Forex Funds, and he did it. And then Shaq, he did it on My Forex Funds.
He passed in 6 hours. Casey did. Yeah. His first attempt, he passed in 6 hours. He actually modified the settings to make them a little more aggressive. Yeah. And it was crazy. 6 hours, he was funded. Because with True Forex Funds, you don't have minimum trading days. So he was able to just pass and then load up his other one, pass, and it was funded. Just like that. All automated. It didn't place a single manual trade.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. So anyways, we're like, okay, so, it's not so much the goal of to pass every single time. That's really not practical. But if we can even get, a 60 or 75% pass rate, that would be a huge value to people that are trying to take these challenges and pass these challenges. That would literally be 10xing their success, right? Their results. Yeah. And so it was actually, I was listening to this, I don't know what it is, either a YouTube video, podcast, something, video with Jim Rohn in it. And he was talking about the parable of the sower. And, for those of you who are Christian, you're familiar with the Bible, you've probably heard this parable before. But essentially, it's this story of a farmer who goes out there and is farming. He's planting seeds. Right. And he talks about how this farmer, some seeds fall on good soil and they grow and they, it becomes a plant and he's able to harvest it and it's all good. But there's also some seeds that fall on bad soil and they get eaten up by the birds or they don't get root because they fall on a rocky area, and so the sun comes and scorches it, and it's never able to mature to a full plant, or whatever, right? I mean, there's all these different situations where that seed may not actually grow up and become this fruit producing plant. But the ones that do, some of them, even once it does grow up, some of them will produce 30-fold, some of them will produce 60-fold, some of them will produce 100-fold. So even though the plant grows up, not all of them are going to produce the same amount of fruit. And so I was just listening to that, and I just thought, wow, that's like a really good analogy for kind of what we're developing here. And that's kind of where this concept that we now call prop farming came from, where prop farming means using data and probabilities to pass prop firm challenges and then also harvest, right? Going off of the analogy there, harvest profits off of these funded accounts. And so that's essentially how prop farming was born. We're like, we've got an automated system. We can take this systematic approach to the markets because we know our data, we know what our pass rate is, and we can just start planting seeds or taking challenges, knowing that, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, whatever it is, are going to pass. And so if we fail one, who cares? We just keep planting seeds. And ultimately, it's leading up to what we hope to be this great harvest, right? Where we get funded and then we're able to harvest, profits off of these funded accounts. So that's basically how prop farming was born. Now, there was one problem still, and that was that we know that these settings weren't going to last forever. We know that market conditions are constantly changing. I can say this from my own personal experience. Looking back, like we were all super excited, and it was kind of me who was kind of the, dampening the mood there, and was just kind of like, guys, this is great, but I already know this is not going to last forever. That's how optimization goes, right? I mean, we optimize over the last couple of years. That's how we're able to get the most, high performing strategies. And that's what you need to pass these prop firm challenges, because they're dang hard to pass. So it wasn't really going to be practical to optimize over a long period of time, because, doing that, you're going to have long periods of drawdown, stagnation, other things. So we were really just focused on shorter periods of time that we were optimizing. And so given that, I know that, hey, unless we keep re-optimizing these settings, eventually they're just going to kind of fizzle out and die. And I think that's probably a lot of people's experiences with EAs and different strategies, is that, they might work okay at first, but then over time they just kind of fizzle out and they don't work anymore. And a lot of people are kind of left scratching their heads, or just kind of shrug their shoulders and walk away, or I don't even know, and just kind of give up on the system. But, for us, we needed to figure out a way that we could continue to re-optimize and make sure that we're always in tune with the market, the current market conditions, and getting these high performance results. And so that's where we came up with what we call the leaderboard. And Adam, you make that analogy with the Tesla. If you want to maybe share that.
It's interesting, because if you think about Tesla, right? Really, they're a car company, but really they're a data company. And, they're out on this mission to build these self-driving cars that just keep getting better and better and better. And we looked at that and we're like, okay, well, we want to build this robot that, continues to get better and better and better, right? Just like how Tesla self-driving does. And if you think about every person that owns a Tesla car, they have this computer. I mean, they're basically driving around a computer that's constantly gathering data from the sensors that they have. So they're constantly getting feedback of, hey, you know what? This guy put his hands on the steering wheel a little bit earlier when we turned left on Johnson Street. So for our self-driving, we have to turn a little bit earlier, right? And now they're gathering this data from literally millions of people at this point. And so what they did is they essentially crowdsourced their users, and they used their users to basically collect all their data and to make their product even better. So we had this idea that was like, hey, well, what if we did the exact same thing? What if anytime any of our users ran a back test or they did any sort of test, what if we were able to gather all of that data and automatically upload it so everyone could see what the best performing settings are that are most recent? And so that was the whole idea, was actually from Tesla, that inspired this idea of the leaderboard that Joe went and built out. And, you can talk a bit about here.
And I remember, Adam, actually being on the phone with you and saying, hey, Adam, because we went ahead and we introduced this strategy because we're like, hey, we've got something that works and we want to, give this to our members and we want to help them be successful. Like, why wouldn't we, right? But I called Adam and I said, and actually I'm getting ahead of myself. Even before I called Adam, we were literally getting people that were passing almost every single week with this strategy, getting amazing results, taking payouts. I mean, it was everything that we had dreamed, right? When we first started on this mission was happening. And it was so cool. Yeah. And we're like, I remember we Adam and I, we would talk, we're like, I think we have the greatest, product ever. Like, this is so cool. And literally people passing in their sleep. Like I remember even myself, I would wake up in the morning, I'd check my account, like, nope, I passed another one, and I was sleeping.
And you even passed, I remember you passed 5 in a week.
I did. I passed 5 in a week. Yep. And so just so cool. But I called Adam and I was like, we got this problem where I know this is not going to last forever. So what do we do? And it was actually Adam who came up with the idea for this leaderboard, using that Tesla concept and all this. And so, I think that's really what makes prop farming unique, is this leaderboard, because, I believe anybody with enough dedication and, mastermind power could probably come up with a strategy that has a decent pass rate. But again, it's being able to systematically and consistently keep up with changing market conditions that I think makes the biggest difference. And so that's where this leaderboard comes into play. And that's what makes this whole thing work, not just today, not just tomorrow, but over the long term. And so let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll show you guys the leaderboard.
Hey, and by the way, if you're finding this content interesting and you'd like to actually trade with this robot that Joe has developed and only pay for if it does in fact actually help you get results, then go on over to www.propfarming.com right now.
Okay, perfect. So this is the prop farming leaderboard. And I just want to show this to explain to you kind of better the concept of this. So we basically, like Adam said, we've got users from our community. We've got myself. We've got a team of our optimizers as well that are constantly submitting strategies to this leaderboard. These strategies are all optimized over the most recent 52 weeks. And what we have here is the name of the strategy, the symbol. You can see we've stuck on gold. I mean, gold just performs really well for passing these prop firm challenges. So, just like we did with the original Golden Goose, we've really just stuck with trading gold and it's worked amazing. You can see the back test dates. They're all, like I said, a minimum of 52 weeks. And then you can see the success rate here. And you can see, I mean, we've got, strategies that are passing 90% of the time. Now, granted, this is for phase 1. Okay. This is the phase 1 pass rate. So so phase 2 is even easier than phase 1. So it's even higher. So, just for example, I don't have the data right in front of me, but it's going to be higher than 90% for phase 2. And so you multiply those together, your average, funded rate between phase 1 and phase 2 is probably going to be somewhere between 85, 90%. So it's incredible, right? We've also got the recency score here, which is essentially giving more points to more recent data, because we know that the more recent data, if we're performing well over more recent data, then we're more likely to perform in the current market. And so, we like to use strategies that are performing best most recently, because that gives us the best probability of performing in the current market. And then we also have these columns here where we verify the back test, make sure that these results are it's not just one-off, something weird that somebody was able to produce, but like we're able to duplicate those results both in the back test and then also in the live market. That's another big thing is, back testing results don't always convert to the live market. So we want to make sure that these strategies work in the live market before, we give them this final check of approval and allow our community members to use these. And so then you can come here and you can click on the results and you can see, week by week, what was the result. You can see, we had a couple of retakes in there. If you're not familiar, if you take a challenge and you end the challenge in profit, once the 30 days are up, I should say, then you can get a free retake. And you can see here, we only had 2 fail weeks, a couple of retake weeks, whatever. December, we don't recommend trading. I'll just say that. So this is kind of a month right now where we're taking off. We can see that easily here on the leaderboard. Go to the results of any strategy. December results are worse than other months. And that's just because of, big banks, hedge funds kind of closing their books for the year. So that's the results tab. And then also we've got this files tabs here where we're able to produce, automatically set files, which are basically pre-configured settings for this strategy that automatically adjust for any account size, any stage of your challenge, and then any, whatever the prop firm's profit target or max loss limits are. Yeah. And that's the last thing I just want to say about this too, is we do have, post-funded settings as well. We have a system, training essentially that, all prop firmers go through to make sure that their post-funded strategies are unique, because that is important. Prop firms don't want everybody trading the same settings and getting into the same trades. That's not good for their risk management, right? If they have all this capital trading the exact same strategy, that defeats the purpose of what they're trying to do, which is gather, successful traders trading a diverse, array of strategies and, that are profitable. So, that's one thing with this, is that you need to make sure that you have a unique post-funded strategy. And we go through a training. It's very simple. Anybody can do it. We have some very settings that you can quickly adjust actually to make it unique. But that's pretty much what this leaderboard is in a nutshell. And like I said, I mean, we've got amazing strategies like these top two here, 90% plus, that have come as a result of this. And we don't expect these strategies to last forever. Like I was saying before too, eventually these top two here, they're going to decline in their performance. And as they decline, ones from down here will probably move up, or there'll be new strategies discovered. But we constantly are optimizing, like I said, myself, our optimization team, and members from the community to constantly have the best settings for the current market conditions.
So obviously the leaderboard, amazing, breakthrough, right? Very, very cool. But what about like once funded, right? Because the data is great on getting funded, but like, what do you recommend doing once you actually get funded?
In fact, we just did a training recently, and we showed some data for post-funded. That's like the most important part, right? Because the whole point is to make money, not just pass challenges, but we actually want to be taking withdrawals and making profits. But we like to use an analogy with this. In fact, we make the analogy with Monopoly, right? Whereas like Monopoly, most people have played that growing up probably. The goal of Monopoly is to accumulate properties, because the more properties you can accumulate, the more money you can make. That's really the whole goal with prop farming, is the same thing. Like our goal is to accumulate these funded accounts. The more funded accounts you can accumulate, the more profits you can make. And the reason is because, well, the data that we have, we found that by taking a more conservative approach once funded, we can produce profits very consistently. So this is the data here. So you can see, I think this was like a 1% profit goal. And if you remember on the leaderboard when I was showing those post-funded, you can just kind of on that slider there, you can select what percentage profit goal you want to go for. But we've just found that a more conservative approach, 1%, 2%, 3% profit goal, we have a much lower likelihood of blowing the account, because if you're too aggressive on that funded account, you could blow it. You could violate those rules of drawdown and loss, and you could get that funded account taken away. And obviously we don't want that. I mean, you've worked hard to, really Titan-X has worked hard, but I mean, you've gone through the process, right, to get this funded account. And so the goal is to keep it and just continue to take challenges in order to accumulate more funded accounts, right? And so what we found here is with this just 1% profit target is we're able to achieve that 100% of the time over the last 52 weeks, mind you, but 100% of the time without blowing the account. We're able to achieve that. We're able to do it on average in 16.69 days. So if we say, we could get approximately just under 2 withdrawals per month, that means we're making about $2,000 per month per funded account. And so you can see if we can accumulate up to 5 of these accounts, for example, then we'll be making about $10,000 per month. And we can just continue to go beyond that. I mean, we can just continue to accumulate more and more funded accounts, and that's going to lead to more and more profits. Just like, again, that monopoly analogy. The more properties we have, the more money we can make. The more funded accounts we have, the more money we can make. And so that's really our goal here with prop farming, and that's how we approach it post-funded.
Hey, the next thing that you need to do right now is to actually check out the video that's popping up on the screen to show you how we pass over 300 different prop firm challenges with Forex robots.